Time to be reminded once again that at least some of the Terraria devs have the maturity of 12-year-olds. Hey there, my name is Salendrak and welcome back to my Terraria version 1.4 Journey's End Beginner's Guide series. In this video, we'll be covering everything you need to know about Queen Slime, including how to spawn the boss, fight mechanics, loot, and strategies and gear loadouts for all classes and difficulty levels. As always, timestamps are down in the description, and let me know down in the comments whether you tend to do this boss before, during, or after you've downed any of the 3 mechanical bosses. Now let's get to it! Queen Slime is a totally optional boss that can be fought at any time once you're in hard mode, and she is absolutely not needed for your progression in the game. In order to spawn the boss, you'll need to search cavern layer areas of the Hollow biome to find gelatin crystals, which have a 1 in 50 chance to grow anytime a crystal shard would otherwise be spawned. Crystal shards can grow on pearl stone, pink ice, and the various pearl sand blocks, so good places to look are the regular hollowed cavern layer, the snow biome, or the hollowed desert. It can take a little bit of practice to recognize them, but you generally don't have to search the hollow very long to find at least a couple. Once found, this item can be consumed at any elevation of any hollow biome to summon the boss, who will appear somewhere off screen. Note that you only have to be in the hollow to summon the boss, but after that you can go outside of the hollow and the boss won't enrage or anything. The boss fight has 2 phases. In phase 1, which lasts until she hits 50% of her max health, she will hop around much like King Slime did, and will release a mix of 3 different types of slimes as she takes damage. Crystal slimes, which are dark blue in color, will shoot out crystal spike projectiles toward your position, while bouncy slimes, which are bright pink, will fire bouncy gel projectiles. Both of these slimes have somewhat random firing arcs and will sometimes hit your actual position, but will frequently shoot just over your head. The third and final type of slime summoned is heavenly slimes, which fly around and try to hit you for contact damage. The best approaches for dealing with these slimes is either to kill them fast or just keep your distance from them. There are some shenanigans you can do using water or even lava to deal with the slimes, but I've never found that necessary. Check the wiki though if you want more information. As for the queen herself, she will generally try to hop towards your position, but will teleport to you if the terrain prevents her from being able to get to you or you get too far away from her. She will also randomly charge energy before firing out a bunch of royal gel projectiles that will bounce once and then disappear the second time they hit a solid block, and will also sometimes leap towards you, phasing through solid blocks and then drop to the ground and do an AoE ground slam. For some reason you won't see the impact area of the ground slam if you are on platforms, but you will still take damage, so be sure to get out of the way. Once she hits 50% health, she'll sprout some wings and start flying around, and will continue to use her slam and royal gel attacks, though much more rapidly, and will also continue to spawn more slimes as she takes damage. She'll no longer teleport in phase 2, but will phase through all solid blocks and will easily match your speed, even if you're running on asphalt. Note that if you do manage to get too far away from her, such as using a magic mirror, then she will despawn. During phase 2, I generally find it easiest to dodge her projectiles by flying a short distance above my platform and then dropping down as needed to avoid taking damage. If you need to change direction, try to get her to overshoot you and fly well above the minion slimes to avoid taking extra damage. This is especially important on Expert and Master mode. Because the projectiles from both the queen and the bouncy slimes only bounce off of solid blocks, fighting on a long elevated platform is recommended. You'll probably only want a single layer though, as it will make eliminating or avoiding the slime minions much easier if they're all on the same level, rather than scattered across multiple layers of platforms. On Expert and Master mode, the fight is basically the same, but there will be even more projectiles from both the queen and her minions, and of course the queen will move faster, have more health, and everything will deal more damage. The bouncy and crystal slimes will have increased rate of fire, and the crystal slimes, rather than shooting towards you, will fire a trio of projectiles upward in a fountain-like pattern, with the height and spread getting bigger the further you are away from them. Beyond that, phase 1 remains pretty easy. Just use your Shield of Cthulhu to dash out of the way when the queen moves above you for a ground slam, and otherwise keep your distance from her and her minions' projectiles. For phase 2, it generally works well to use your wings going up and down to increase distance from her, and let her momentum overshoot you as you change directions. Try to stay well above all of her minion slimes, and ideally use a weapon that can keep their populations in check. It can take some practice to get good at dodging the Queen's royal gel attacks, but definitely do your best to avoid them on the higher difficulties, as they are usually her biggest source of damage against you. All classes will want to use ranged weapons that ideally have piercing and or area of effect damage to help keep the slime populations in check while also damaging the Sovereign. Just keep moving to dodge projectiles and enemies, and soon enough you'll be rewarded with the melodious sound of her flatulent demise. Let's talk about loot. On Classic difficulty, Queen Slime will always drop one piece of the Crystal Assassin armor set, dropping 2 pieces on Expert and Master mode. This is a decent early hard mode armor set that boasts general stat boosts that all classes can benefit from, and is roughly comparable to top tier hard mode or based armor sets. One nice perk it has, especially in Classic difficulty, is its ability to dash by double tapping to either side. This dash is much like the Shield of Cthulhu's dash, but unlike that accessory, the Crystal Armor dash does not cause you to rebound off of targets you hit with the dash, so long as you have knockback immunity from a Cobalt Shield or its upgrades. The Queen can also drop the Blade Staff, a minion summoning weapon, which is pretty fantastic in early hard mode, the Gelatinous Pillion, which allows you to fly around on your own personal Queen Slime mount, and the Hook of Dissonance, a single point grappling hook that warps you to the hook's location whenever it hits a grappleable object. Note that the drop rate of these items ranges between 25 to 50%, varying by item and difficulty level, with higher rates on the higher difficulty levels. On all difficulties, she'll gift you with 5 to 15 greater healing potions and a stack of gold, has about a 14% chance to drop the Queen Slime Vanity Mask, and a 10% chance to drop her trophy. Expert and Master mode loot bags will always give you the Volatile Gelatin accessory, which will shoot out a steady barrage of projectiles resembling the Queen's Regal Gel. These things hit for pretty decent damage and can pierce a couple of enemies and bounce off of solid objects. Loot bags will also contain a bunch of harmless sparkle slime balloons that I'm not going to say anything else about, and on Master mode you'll get the Queen Slime Relic and have a 25% chance to get the Regal Delicacy, which summons a Slime Princess Vanity Pet. Time to talk about gear for the fight. As with pretty much all boss fights, all classes will want high mobility for taking the Queen Slime down, so put on your best speed boots and wings to maximize your ability to dodge the boss and all the projectiles. Every class will want their class emblem as well as a Cobalt Shield or its upgrades to ensure you don't get knocked around when taking damage. Beyond that, go ahead and equip whatever other accessories will boost your offensive or defensive capabilities based on your chosen class and preferred playstyle. For armor and weapon recommendations, I'm only going to be covering stuff that is available before you've beaten any of the mechanical bosses, but definitely use hollowed armor or better if you have it, and whatever mech boss upgrades or better you might have by the time you're taking on the Queen. For armor, any of the higher tier hard mode armor sets will work just fine, so Mithril or Orichalcum, Adamantite or Titanium, or the hybrid sets of Frost Armor or Forbidden Armor will all get the job done just fine on all difficulty levels. On Expert and Master mode, you'll definitely want your Shield of Cthulhu for dashing away from ground slams, the boss, and projectiles, and as is typical with most bosses, you can't go wrong with the Worm Scarf or Brain of Confusion for additional incoming damage reduction. Be sure to stock up on your best buff potions and foods, and spread out campfires, heart lanterns, stars in bottles if using mana, and honey baths throughout your fighting arena. On Classic difficulty, melee characters can use just about any weapon that has at least a little bit of range for this fight. Good options include flails such as the Tao of Pao, an early hard mode crafted weapon, or the chain guillotines from Corrupt Mimics. Yo-yos with the yo-yo bag also work decently well, and options include the Amrock or Hellfire. And even the Knight's Edge works decently well on Classic difficulty. For Expert and Master mode, my top picks are the Banana Ring from Blood Moon Clowns or the Shadow Flame Knife from Goblin Warlocks of the hard mode Goblin Invasion, as these will allow you to better apply damage while keeping your distance from the boss, while also keeping the minion slimes in check. If not using a yo-yo, you'll definitely want a Power Glove for increased weapon attack speed. On all difficulty levels, Rangers can use pretty much anything to dethrone the Queen. If you like bows, then the Daedalus Stormbow with holy arrows works fabulously well, but you can also use repeaters, preferably with Ichor or cursed arrows. Guns are overall a stronger option than repeaters, and the Onyx Blaster is fantastic at taking down the boss and keeping the minion slimes in check, and Crystal, Ichor, and Cursed bullets all seem to work comparably well. The Clockwork Assault Rifle with those bullets is another good option, though slightly weaker than the Onyx Blaster. And lastly, if you like darts, you can use either the Dart Rifle or the Dart Gun, with Cursed or Ichor darts being the best ammo options. So yeah, lots of options, and they all work just fine on Classic, Expert, or Master mode. Like Rangers, the mages among us can use basically any hard mode weapon on Classic difficulty. Like literally any hard mode magic weapon can be used effectively against Queen Slime. And pretty much anything can also be used on Expert difficulty, but for Master mode my top picks are going to be the Meteor Staff, even though it is very mana hungry, the Desert Spirit Lamp, a crafted item from materials sourced from an evil underground desert, the Hex Flame Doll, courtesy of Goblin Warlocks from the hard mode Goblin Invasion, or the Cursed Flame, a spellbook craftable in Corruption Worlds. Each of these options works comparably well on all difficulties and are my top picks for Master mode. As with the mechanical bosses, summoners have pretty limited options for taking down Queen Slime in early hard mode, but on Classic difficulty you can do just fine with any combination of the options that are available. For armor, you only have 3 options if you haven't defeated any mechanical bosses yet, namely the Obsidian Outlaw set from pre-hard mode that continues to work really well due to its massive boost to whip damage and range, the Spider Armor set that gives you a big boost to your number of summoned minions, and the Forbidden Armor Hybrid set, which has the highest defense of the 3 and can be used to place Ancient Storms to help keep straggling slimes at bay. Any of these sets also works just fine on Expert and Master mode. On the whip front, your pre-mech boss options are the Firecracker from the Wall of Flesh and the Cool Whip, a crafted weapon, and both seem to work comparably well. If you have both of them, toggling between the two is also quite effective, and either or both of these whips works perfectly fine on Expert and Master mode. For minions, you basically have 3 options that all work just fine on Classic difficulty. Abigail from pre-hard mode, the Spider Staff, which is easily crafted in early hard mode, and the Sanguine Staff. Of these 3, Abigail is probably the weakest and the Sanguine Staff is the strongest, but it's also quite a bit harder to get as it requires fishing up and defeating the Dread Nautilus from the hard mode Blood Moon, which has a 50% chance to drop the item. That said, the Sanguine Staff is easily the best option for Queen Slime on Expert and Master mode, as the bats won't have any problem hitting the boss in this high mobility fight. By contrast, Abigail is slow and gets easily distracted, and the spiders likewise have trouble keeping up with the boss. And I'll just briefly mention that the Pirate Staff from the Pirate Invasion does not work well in this fight, as the pirates just won't be able to help out much, especially in phase 2 of the fight. And that's it for Queen Slime. Overall, this can be a really fun fight as it requires lots of moving and managing not only the boss, but also all her minions while dodging tons of projectiles. And although she is certainly easier with hollowed armor and various weapons from the mechanical bosses, it can also be nice to down her before the mech bosses, as the dash from the crystal armor is quite useful, and the blade staff is also a great option in early hard mode. But that's all for now. Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like button if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers!